Okay, hi, hello, how are you today? How are you today? Welcome in. Welcome into my humble abode. How are you today? Please put the chips on the counter. Did you bring drinks? You bring drinks? Alright, but you can put them over there. Here, let me put them in the fridge for you. Oh, I'm so happy you could make it today. I'm so glad you could make it. I really wasn't sure if you'd come today, but what a lovely surprise. Anyway, hi. Hi, we're reading Remnants of Filth. You done made volume 2. Uh so yes. And that is that, and that is that. And we are in chapter 56 called I'll Hold You, and I don't know how to feel about that. So here's the thing. The thing is that last week we weren't able to read this book because I had some computer issues, but today we're good. We are good. We have good stream status. We have good kbps, whatever the fuck that means. We're good. We're good. We have tea. How are you? How are you? I hope you're good. I woke up a couple hours ago. What's new? Sorry, something's wrong with me today. I did a little silly things with the mic filters. Hopefully it's a little better. I noticed I needed way more compression in general because I was getting fed up with it, all right? I was getting fed up with it. If my voice cuts out here and there, it's probably because of my noise gate. I have to put it up quite high because sometimes things happen outside of my apartment and it is very loud and I don't want it to be loud and I don't want to be heard on stream. Anyway, welcome. We read for about 1.5 hours, maybe 1 to 2 hours. We read about 40 to 50 pages, maybe 3 chapters usually. See, that's what I'm talking about. Anyway, and we're on page 253. I have read this page like 3 times because, you know, last time we kept dying. But hopefully that won't happen today. Shall we get started? All right. Chapter 56, I'll Hold You. The imperial procession set out on their long journey with all pomp and circumstance, heading east out of the capital. Like a vast surging wave, they processed toward the soul-calling abyss. Is it processed? I don't know. The journey would take around 3 days. At dusk on the first day, they reached the banks of the Shui River. Shui River. The servants began to set up camp and prepare quarters for their lords, while the nobles were called into the imperial tent to dine. More than 100 seats had been arranged within a massive pavilion supported by magic. Most of the nobles had already assembled by the time Moji joined them. After a servant girl guided him to a seat, he looked across the aisle to see Murong Lian staring back at him. Like the rest of the noble scions on their way to pay their respects, Murong Lian was dressed in his ceremonial attire. His lavish sapphire blue robes were ornately embroidered with his clan's bat insignia, and the blue and gold ribbon was tied neatly across his forehead, setting off the pallor of his face. Okay. Wangshu Manor and the Mo clan were both influential families, and they had produced generations of heroes. Murong Lian's ancestors had bestowed upon him the undeniable right to wear this ribbon. However, all those present had judgment in their heart. Each of them knew clearly which clans continued to sire heroes worthy of that glory. Well, I mean, Moji's not gonna sire any. Oh, that's not the end of the sentence. And which clans' descendants were an insult to the blood of their forefathers. I'll be honest, I don't think either of them are gonna sire any heirs, any heroes. Once everyone had arrived... Oop. Y'all hearing this? Are you hearing this? Okay, fuck off then. Anyway. Once everyone had arrived, the Emperor addressed the crowd. After a day of travel, you must all be tired. Let us begin. The palace servant girls floated in with the platters in their hands. They knelt gracefully before each noble and began to pour wine and serve food. Because they were on the road, the fare was less varied than usual. There were only 8 side dishes, 4 cold and 4 hot, and 1 main dish, but everything was exquisitely prepared. The 4 cold dishes consisted of meat terrine, sansi salad made with 3 kinds of finely julienned vegetables, sweet osmanthus lotus root, and frost sky fish. The 4 hot dishes were steamed perch with scallion oil, fried shrimp with eel, steamed crab with black vinegar, and stir-fried lotus with snow peas and wood ear mushrooms. Why does this book make me hungry every single time I read it? The main course was a delicacy perfected by the imperial kitchens, soup dumplings with crab filling. We're just gonna read over the noise. After his fight with Gumong, Moji's terrible mood had persisted. He could hardly eat a bite, but he did drink much more than usual. Uh-oh. In truth, the offerings made to their ancestors in Chonghua's end-of-year ceremony weren't so much as a sacrifice as they were an account of how many battles were won, what kind of spiritual devices had been obtained, and whether the country was prosperous and the people at peace during the preceding year. If the year had not been a good one, the atmosphere of the ceremony would be solemn. If Changhua had thrived, on the other hand, then the ceremony would be a means to reassure the souls of their ancestors, and the feast would be one of joyous abandon. This year we put a pause on the fighting to strengthen ourselves at home. Although some complications arose, it still counts as a good year. Ha ha ha. Yes, we even reclaimed some territory on the eastern frontier. It's a happy occasion. Yue Chenqing was sitting nearby, clinging to his youngest uncle, and as he chirped and chattered, fourth uncle, this sweet lotus root is your favorite. If you don't have enough, I'll give you mine. Chenqing. His father, Yue Juntian, had recently returned to the capital and was attending the ceremony as obligated. At the sight of his son fawning over Murong Chuyi again, he could scarcely hide his distaste. He cleared his throat and shot a glare at Yue Chenqing. As Moji watched this scene unfold, he couldn't help but recall the first time Gumong had attended this ceremony. Back then, Gumong had recently been appointed to his position by the old emperor and was in high spirits indeed. The emperor had even made an exception to allow him to attend this ceremony, otherwise restricted to pure-blooded nobles. The honor had delighted Gumong to no end. His seat was next to Moji's, and, unable to hold back his excitement, he had talked to Moji non-stop, cheerfully chattering away like Yue Chenqing. This raw fish is delicious. I heard the imperial cooks used carp fresh from the river. Try some. Do you like it? Moji closed his eyes and swallowed a mouthful of strong wine. Not once throughout the feast did he touch the frost sky fish. After the meal concluded, Moji returned to his own camp. He was prepared to retire when he spied the captain of his guard nervously pacing back and forth in the wind. The man rushed toward him on sight. "My lord!" he cried out in fright. Moji looked up. "What is it?" Head housekeeper Li instructed me to keep an eye on Gumong and give him his medicine, but when I went to his tent, I couldn't find him anywhere. He didn't even eat dinner with us. I don't know where he went." Moji wasn't too worried. He could sense that Gumong was in the encampment through the slave collar around his neck. Moji sighed. "Give me the medicine jar. You may go rest." But are you going to personally handle such a trivial matter?" Moji had no wish to continue the conversation. He only repeated, "You may go." There was no arguing with such direct dismissal, no matter what the captain thought. He respectfully passed Moji the medicine jar and left as instructed. On the banks of the Fushui, the night winds were sharp and biting. Moji stood still for a moment, sobering up, then took a stroll around the encampment. As expected, Gumung hadn't escaped. He had sat down at the base of a dawn redwood and fallen asleep, curled in on himself. He's just a baby. Moji looked down at him for a long while, then slowly got down on one knee. His anger from yesterday had not completely dissipated, and the atmosphere between them was awkward in the extreme. A long beat of silence passed before Moji spoke. "Wake up. Go sleep in your tent." Everyone in this camp had their own tent already pitched. Moji didn't understand why Gumung had run off to use the ground for a bed and sky for a blanket instead. "Wake up," he repeated himself several times, but Gumung showed no reaction. Somewhat irked, Moji reached out and shoved him a little. Unexpectedly, this push sent Gumung toppling over like a scarecrow. Moonlight shone through the tree's needles and onto Gumung, revealing a face flushed an unhealthy red, as if his pale skin had been steamed in warm mist. His eyes were squeezed shut, and his long lashes fluttered as his wet lips parted around the breath he couldn't quite catch. His brows were subconsciously furrowed in pain. "Gumung!" Moji exclaimed in shock. He reached out to touch Gumung's forehead. It was alarmingly hot. Moji hurriedly pulled the insensible, feverish Gumung to his feet. They made their way toward Gumung's little tent, with Moji propping him up the whole way. Fortunately, Jihamanor's encampment was rather remote, and Moji's retinue was already asleep in their tents. No eyes witnessed this scene. Moji lifted the tent flap and placed Gumung on the bed. Gumung, now slightly more lucid, blinked sleepily and gazed up at Moji with hazy eyes. As if struck by a realization, he started to struggle, attempting to sit up and get off the bed. Moji held him down with one hand. He suppressed his own anxiety, and as he said quietly through gritted teeth, "Lie down. What are you fussing for?" Gumung bit his glossy lower lip, the blue in his eyes resembling tumbling mist. Beneath this stare, Moji's heart began to race. His hands balled into fists, and he rose to put some distance between them, but Gumung still stared numbly at him. Or perhaps not at him. The light in Gumung's eyes was focused on Moji's forehead ribbon. Gumung opened his mouth as if he wanted to speak, but as his lips parted, he realized he didn't know what he should say, so he bit his lip again. A moment later, he tried again to rise. Moji pinned him down. "What are you doing?" Due to his fever, Gumung was only half conscious. He clutched at Moji's sleeve and stubbornly tried to get off the bed. "Gumung!" Moji snapped. Hearing his own name seemed to awaken a glimmer of awareness in Gumung. He shivered, his silhouette hunching further until he looked wretched, like a ball of mud trying to slip off the edge of the bed. But Moji held him back. Moji blocked his way. Gumung sat in a daze for some time before he mumbled, "Let me go. Please let me go." "You have a fever. Lie down." "Let me go. I don't want to be here." Moji's heart was gripped at once by pain and hatred, annoyance and warmth. He helped Gumung sit upright once more, then tried to ease him down to lie back on his back. Gumung didn't comply. This time he grabbed Moji by the lapels and pressed his scalding forehead to Moji's waist. "I don't want to sleep here." That proud neck that had never bent now seemed like it could break at any moment. Gumung slumped against Moji, feverish and dizzy. He wanted to push Moji away, but he also felt as though he'd grabbed hold of something warm and solid, like a man floating in an icy lake who had seized onto a piece of driftwood. In the end, his rejection became a helpless embrace. Gumung clung to Moji with his face pressed to his hip. "Your bed is too clean for me," he mumbled hoarsely. Moji stared at him. "What?" "I'm dirty." Moji felt as oh my god. Moji felt as if he'd taken a sharp strike to the chest. It hurt so much, but the person clinging to him was still muttering intermittently, incoherently. Whether because of the agony of the fever, or his terror of something else, he held on, his voice tearful and broken. I don't know how to sleep without getting it dirty, so let me go. Let me go. Where do you want to go? Whispered Moji. This question seemed to reach Gumang, dealing him a blow. He opened his eyes in bewilderment, his voice teetering on a sob. I don't know either. The lump in Moji's throat was bitter. He looked down at Gumang, momentarily speechless. I'm already dirty. I'm covered in filth. I don't know where I'm supposed to go. I don't know where I can go. Moji's heart throbbed. He looked down at Gumang from this angle. He could dimly see the cheek that Gumang had turned away, could almost see the red mark his slap had left yesterday. He really hadn't held back at all. Don't you know how dirty you are? The words echoed in his ears. Did he regret it? No. His heart was already stone. He did not regret it. It was just that he didn't know why, but a brilliant smile haunted his thoughts. It was a smile from many years ago, when they had still been young. Back then, there had been no romance between them. They were only ordinary comrades, like any other soldiers. Moji had been ambushed and lay surrounded, suffering in agony as he waited for reinforcements. He had waited for so long that he had started to wish for death. The world had already turned crimson by the time his Gushishang, clad in shining silver armor that reflected the sky, had come for him on horseback. Gumang had dismounted and wrapped his arm tightly around his wounded Shidi. Moji was covered in the venom of the Lao Kingdom's beasts. He rasped through dry lips. Let go. Shidi, don't touch me, Moji gasped. I'm covered in filth. All this blood is poisonous. It's filthy. It will make you dirty too. It will make you sick too. We've only fought one battle together. We're neither friends nor family, so why would you suffer with me? But what had Gumang said to him back then? These dusty and distant memories he'd never wanted to relive bubbled and boiled over. Gumang had said, Don't be afraid, Xizhang. Don't be afraid. Xizhang will stay with you. Someone had to pull you from that filthy, poisonous blood. Risk be damned. Don't worry, I'm not scared. Since I chose this path, since I've taken to the battlefields, I never expected to return healthy and whole. It doesn't matter if you're noble, a slave, or a commoner. You and I are fellow soldiers. I'll see this ordeal through with you, in life or in death. I, Gumang, am a slave, and this is the first opportunity I've had to prove myself like this. I'm not afraid of death. I just want Changhua to see, for His Imperial Majesty to see, for all of you to see, that though I'm a lowly slave, I'm the same as you. I have the same passionate devotion, the same life or death loyalty. I'm worthy of being called your Shiga, your brother. Get blood on me. I don't mind. Give me your hand. No matter how dirty you are, I will embrace you. No matter how much it hurts, I will stay with you. No matter how far it is, I will bring you home. Can I just say, that was something like straight out of the Bible. Like, what the fuck? That was a psalm right there. Holy shit. Gumang, a poet. Phantom talons tightened around Moji's heart, ripping the flesh apart. On one side lay the nation's hatred, on the other, his deepest debt. Why? Why was it the same man who had given him both the greatest agony and the greatest love? He had been pushed beyond the limits of his endurance. He couldn't breathe. In the dim candlelight, his eyes were fixed on Gumang's face. So much hatred, so much love, so much agony, an agony worse than death. Hold on to me. Don't worry. I'm not scared. I'm not scared. Moji closed his eyes. The lights flickered. The tent was quiet. Moji bent to take Gumang into his arms. He carried him out of the small tent and back to his own quarters. Gently, he put his feverish Gushishang down onto his own soft and sprawling bed, covered in a thick blanket of Arctic fox fur. Moji lifted his hand and hesitated briefly. At last, he gently cupped Gumang's burning cheek. His touch was light, but Gumang seemed to have been frightened by yesterday's slap. His eyes squeezed even more tightly shut, and he flinched instinctively, trembling. Moji slowed and silently lowered his hand. He sat next to the bed for a long while, then buried his face in his fine-boned hands. The tent glowed with lamplight. His silhouette was so weary, as if countless heavy and contradictory feelings were poised to tear him asunder. Time passed like this. Gumang succumbed to exhaustion and fell fast asleep. When Moji turned to see the man curled up beside him, he stared for several seconds in blank silence. He must have gone insane. The memorial ceremony was for the souls of their nation's martyred heroes, for those who died at Gumang's hand. Yet, what was he doing? Taking care of a traitor. He closed his eyes, got to his feet, and slipped out of the tent. The medicine jar was still in his hand. Just a moment ago, he'd wanted Gumang to drink it, but now it would probably be better to wait until he woke. Moji stood in the night wind, his mind a mess. He didn't want to harbor this gentleness toward Gumang, but he still couldn't forget what the captain had said, that Gumang hadn't even eaten dinner with them. He hesitated for quite a while, conflicted. At last he set out in the direction of the Imperial Cook's camp. Oh, that's the end of the chapter. Shit. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. So the next chapter is called Coming of Age. Gay, you're gay. The next chapter is called Coming of Age, and the chapter after that is called Teach Me Shishong, and the chapter after that, I'm not gonna tell you. But we're gonna read those two chapters. All right, let's go. On chapter 57 on page 263. Oh boy. Can these motorcycles fucking chill already? Oh my god, fuck off. I swear to god, these people are fucking losers. And I can say that because I know where I live. They're fucking losers. God. Anyway. Moji wasn't much good in the kitchen, so he had to trouble the Imperial cooks to rise from their beds and make something filling. I swear to God. Their encampment was close to the water, where plenty of carp flourished. The cook, not daring to slight Jihujun, carefully prepared a bowl of fish congee. Is it congee or congee? And steamed a basket of crab roe soup dumplings. He was about to add even more dishes when Moji said, "That's enough. I just need something light." He returned to his tent, carrying a wooden tray. Moji lowered the thick curtain and took up the fire tongs to coax the brazier to burn more merrily. Then he padded over to wake Gumang. Gumang slowly opened his eyes. He saw Moji's cool features hovering hazily before him. He began to struggle, as if he wanted to say something, but Moji cut him off. "Okay, enough of that about dirtiness. Are you hungry?" He didn't wait for Gumang to respond before setting the tray down on the bedside table. "Eat something." This is the softest he has ever fucking been to him. Are you kidding me? I mean, after everything went down, but are you kidding me? His tone wasn't exactly gentle, and contained a measure of feigned annoyance, but compared to the furious man at the hot spring yesterday, he was sweet as honey. Gumang wasn't interested in making himself suffer. The instant he smelled the food, he sat up, reached out to take a bowl and tucked in without another sound. Oh my god. The congee was creamy and light, the pure white slices of fish meltingly tender. He finished it all in one go. Newly energized, he reached out to grab a soup dumpling. Moji stopped him. Chopsticks. Gumong paused. He didn't like using chopsticks because he couldn't handle them properly. But since his lord had given him a command, he had no choice but to clumsily grab the chopsticks and poke doggedly at the dumpling. The thick skin of the dumpling broke, and the soup spilled out. Of course it did. This wasn't a problem in itself, but Gumong continued to chase that broken dumpling around the basket until he had made a complete mess of it. He never managed to grasp the entire dumpling. His chopsticks finally closed around a small piece of the skin, but the meat filling had tumbled out. Moji couldn't bear to watch any longer. He stiffly took the jade chopstick from Gumong's hand and ate that tragic dumpling himself. Then he picked up an intact dumpling and brought it up to Gumong's mouth. Gumong probably thought this person was crazy, viciously mean 1 second, and hand-feeding him the next. He simply couldn't wrap his mind around it. He stared in silence. "Open your mouth," Moji said, impatient. That's not the first time he said that. Gumong truly was famished, so after a second of hesitation, he opened his mouth and bit into the dumpling. Moji had picked up for him. It burst with a pop, spraying soup everywhere. Moji couldn't dodge in time and received a perfectly aimed faceful of soup. Gumong hadn't fared much better. His lips were painfully scalded, and he spat out the half-bitten dumpling with a hiss, just as he thought. Moji hated him and wanted him to suffer. Stupid ass bitch. Moji grabbed Gumong's chin and tilted his face up, interrupting Gumong's thoughts. For a moment, he thought Moji was angry and wanted to slap him again. His blue eyes flickered uneasily, but the pain he expected never arrived. He looked down, his lashes fluttering as he studied Moji's expression. Moji was staring at his mouth, his face inscrutable. After some time, Gumong heard him murmur through gritted teeth, "Why are you always—" "Always what?" Moji didn't finish his sentence, but pain stabbed through Gumong's head as blurry scenes flashed through his mind. At some other point in time, this had happened before. He had eaten something too hastily and burned his tongue, and then it seemed like someone had also grabbed his chin like this, tilting his face up to peer at him while grumbling about him not being more careful. "Just nibble a small hole first, then eat it. No one's going to take it from you. Let me see how bad it is." Then, for some inexplicable reason, that person suddenly bent down and kissed him on the mouth. Cool lips wrapped around his tender and scalding tongue. This memory made Gumong bewildered, made his heart throb. He licked his lips without realizing. The movement seemed to set a fire in Moji's chest. Even as it blazed bright inside him, his eyes went dark. After a beat of silence, Moji slowly released him, turning his fair, handsome face aside. After Gumong finished eating, he felt Moji's eyes on him once more. It was time for him to take his medicine. Gumong knew he couldn't avoid it, so he gulped down the medicine to get it over with as fast as possible. He never anticipated that Moji would bring him a second jar. His eyes widened. Okay. "It's for your fever," Moji said, his tone indifferent. "I had the healers here prepare it. Drink." Helpless, Gumong chugged this jar of medicine as well, with an unpleasant expression. Moji cleared away the dishes and said, "Go to sleep." "This is your bed," Gumong replied carefully. "Yesterday, you said I don't want to talk about what happened yesterday." Moji cut him off. "Nor am I helping you because I feel guilty about it. If you got sick, I would be inconvenienced. I don't want to be inconvenienced." Gumong fell silent. "Do you understand?" A nod. "Then go to sleep." Moji brought the tableware back to the Imperial cooks. By the time he returned to the tent, Gumong had indeed obediently gone to sleep, but likely because yesterday's incident in the hot spring had badly frightened him. He didn't dare to be too presumptuous, and had curled up as small as he could in one corner of the bed. Moji stared at him for a moment, expressionless. He picked up a felt blanket and covered Gumong with it. Perhaps it was because he was sleeping in Moji's bed, surrounded by his scent. Gumong furrowed his brow and slept fitfully, images flashing now again through his head. These images were blurry and disconnected at the beginning, but by the end, like a meandering stream pouring into a rushing river, a vivid memory returned to his feverish head. He hazily recalled the day Moji had come of age. Uh-oh. Will I have to skip this part? I don't know. Let's see. Okay, I don't think I do. And that's a scene break, and we're going into a flashback, I suppose. Alright, bottom of page 266. Gumong had gathered up a pocketful of jangling cowrie shells and gone to a nearby market for a jar of pear blossom white wine and 2 or 3 good dishes. The cold wind rustled past him as he slipped into Moji's tent, arms full of food and wine. Shidi, Shidi! Moji had been reading. When he looked up and caught sight of Gumong, he was visibly surprised. What are you doing here so late? With a smile, Gumong put everything down and shook out his aching limbs. I'm here to keep you company. Aren't you going to be 20 in a few shichen? Moji looked astonished. I forgot. Gumong laughed. I just knew it. You think of nothing but spell techniques. Of course you've even forgotten about something like this. He pulled over a small table and started arranging everything on it as he cheerfully continued. Don't worry. You may have forgotten, but your Shiga hasn't. Moji rolled up his scroll and rose to help him, trying to hide his blush. Thank you very much, he murmured. What are you thanking me for? You only come of age once in your life. How sad would it be if you spent it out here by yourself? Come here, let Shiga keep you company. He grinned mischievously. I'll keep you company as you change from a little brat into a grown man. He winked, then summoned up a solemn expression. Through youth and into adulthood. What could Moji say to something like that? Such smarmy behavior should have infuriated him. At the time, however, Moji had been harboring long-standing feelings for Gumong. He had tried to confess them on several occasions, but each time something had gotten in the way, so he'd kept his feelings suppressed in his heart. Now, on the night of his coming of age, the object of his affections had not only remembered the date, but had even snuck into Moji's tent to be with him. Forget Gumong calling him a little brat. He could have said much worse, and Moji wouldn't have cared. Fucking, this guy's smitten. Gumong lifted the lids of the food boxes to reveal several humble and common dishes. After he finished setting the table, he warmed a pot of good wine on the stove. The brothers chatted and ate, and the night grew dark before they knew it. Gumong back then had only seen Moji as a little Shidi he was very close with, and was completely unguarded around him. That night, Gumong had a bit too much to drink, and the wine had gone to his head, so he was teasing Moji mercilessly. In contrast, Moji remained relatively sober and restrained. Although he had also downed 2 cups of wine, he was hardly inebriated. Inebriated. Yeah. As he watched his Shishong get more and more unruly, he had the feeling it would be improper to let this continue. After a moment of consideration, he told Gumong he would walk him back to his own tent. But Gumong was having fun. How could he be willing to leave? Chuckling, he slung an arm around Moji's shoulder and affectionately scooched closer. No way. Why would Gaga go home so early? You've had too much, Moji said, exasperated, as he disentangled himself from Gumong and tried to pull him up from the table. Gumong very helpfully stood up, but he had no intention of leaving whatsoever. He paced around the table, then threw himself into Moji's arms, laughing. Shitty, we're two good bros. As he giggled, he buried his burning face in the crook of Moji's neck. The first time I saw you at the academy, you weren't even as tall as I am. You looked so small and serious. He chuckled, oblivious to the flush making its way up Moji's neck. In a blink of an eye, you become a man even stronger and taller than your Shiga. He stumbled to his feet once more and reached out to cup Moji's face. Beaming, he continued, It's just your face that's still the same. When you're not glaring, you're so delicate and pretty. Unfortunately, he was too drunk to notice how complicated Moji's expression had become. The brightest love, the greediest lust, and the deepest tenderness all surfaced, one after another, only to be forced down again by the coldest self-control. Separated by mere inches, Moji tore his gaze away from Gumong's face. Shishong should go to sleep, he said firmly. I'll help you back. Sleep. Laughing, Gumong tried very hard to straighten up before Moji could lead him anywhere. He folded at the waist like a crab that had spent the winter drunk. Without warning, he collapsed against Moji again, his limbs all askew. Both of them stumbled. The force of Gumong's weight upon him sent Moji tumbling backward into the army bed, Gumong heavy on his chest. I don't like leaving, Gumong mumbled. My tent is so far away. Moji was at a loss. I'll sleep right here. Gumong was used to acting quite casual with Lu Jianxing and his other buddies, but because his little shidi Moji was beautiful, highborn, and the picture of icy aloofness, Gumong cherished him, but took care to keep himself in check. He always worried that he might accidentally upset this noble young master, 3 years his junior. If Gumong were sober, he definitely wouldn't be so forward. Even if he was exhausted and wanted to stay over, he'd still ask with a smile, Is it okay if Shishong sleeps here for the night? But the wine had muddled his head. He no longer had so many reservations, and even his cautious habit of asking for permission had faded. Like some Jianghu big shot, he tossed out a demand without an ounce of hesitation and let out an enormous yawn, leaving Moji to his vibrant mess of emotions. Gumong wasted no more time. He closed his eyes and went to sleep. Moji's face was going green. He gritted his teeth as he looked down at the head resting on his chest. Get up. How could he let Gumong sleep here? He felt such unspeakable desire toward him, such that it tormented his heart day in and day out. How could he possibly let Gumong so unwittingly sleep by his side? But it seemed like Gumong was really about to spend the night like this. The frustration in Moji's chest blazed to life. He decided he would get up and haul Gumong to his feet. Even if he had to carry Gumong piggyback to his tent, that was preferable to Gumong sleeping here with him. But Moji had barely twitched before Gumong lifted his head again, seemingly alert. No, I just remembered, he piped up. I can't sleep yet. With that, Gumong rolled over, getting off Moji. He reached into the collar of his robe and as he mumbled, I nearly forgot. I even brought you a coming-of-age present. Hey, where did it go? Laying there in Moji's bed, Gumong fished around in his robes for a long time. At last, he produced a crumpled little book from within his lapels. He gazed triumphantly at the pamphlet in his hand, then pulled Moji close. He looked every bit the part of a scoundrel. What? He looked every bit a part of a scoundrel elder brother corrupting the youth. It's your 20th birthday. That means you've come of age. Your Gumong Gaga knows you like to read. I can't afford to get you anything expensive, but I dragged this up from the juicy bookstall. It's cheap, but it's definitely something else. He boasted of his purchase like a salesman shamelessly hawking his wares. Then he shoved the book into Moji's hands, his enthusiasm obvious. Look at it. Moji didn't pick up Gumong's implications, nor could he make heads or tails of Gumong's weaselly expression. He honestly thought Gumong had brought him an interesting book, so he took the pamphlet and opened it. At first glance, he didn't understand. At second glance, he saw that it was full of mysterious drawings, but was still unsure. Gumong was lying next to him. He inched his warm body closer as he laughed. So, isn't it great? Some minutes passed, yet he still hadn't heard Moji make a sound. Rather, the youth's beautiful face was filled with some confusion. Gumong was flabbergasted. No way, you don't like it? It's so thrilling. Gogo spent a long time picking it out. He followed Moji's gaze, paused for a moment, and then said, Shidi. Gumong sighed. He looped one arm over Moji's shoulders. You're holding it upside down. He plucked the book from Moji's fine-boned hands and flipped it over. Clearing his throat, he chuckled, voice smooth and low. Come here, be good. Gogo will teach you how to read it right side up. Voila! Look, Gumong proclaimed. With a single glance, Moji's fair and gallant features flushed beet red. This was a fucking porn booklet! That's the end of the chapter. That's the end of the chapter. Ooh, two can play this game, bitch. Ooh. We're gonna keep going. I think we're just gonna keep going. I am going to turn the AC up a little bit. It's too cold. Doesn't need to be that way. So 1 second. Actually, let's run the ad break right now. And then we'll do that. All right. We'll be on to the next chapter, which is Teach Me Shishong. So yeah, that's what's happening. So yeah, BRB. Okay, I'm back here for a second. I still have like a minute of ads, but I would just like to say, I don't know, I just want to chat for a little bit. You know how when you're reading, you have to like section out your breathing properly? Yeah, I think I have breathing problems. You guys are reading, fair enough. I have breathing problems, and I need to breathe better. I just want to be able to breathe. All of my problems are related, not all of them, a lot of my problems are related to breathing problems. My chat is different? Huh. What the fuck? Hang on a second. That's my old chat. What the hell? What? Hello? That's so weird. That is so weird. There we go. Anyway. What did I do? I don't know. You're gonna gamble on a new character? I'm not gonna wish you luck. Why would I wish you luck for that? God, I'm not gonna wish you luck. Oh, goodness, this guy is trying to get the womb tattoo sword lady. Why don't my Danmei boys have womb tattoo swords? Why not? Fuck you. That's good enough for you, isn't it? He's got inspiration. What the fuck? What does that mean? Yeah, that's good enough for you. I think that's what you deserve. It's like you're funny. It's like what's it called? It's like a blind box. You don't know what you're getting. Oh, no, stretch. Alright. We'll do one more chapter. Actually, I don't even know if we'll do one more chapter because what if it's porn? What if it's... What if I have to read porn? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Okay? Teach me, Shishong. Chapter 58. Page 273. These have all been exactly 10 chapters, and that is really satisfying to me. 10 pages. Okay. Oh boy, here we go. As though he touched something disgusting, Moji's dark eyes widened like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He tried to slam the book shut in shame and anger, but Gumong, cackling to himself, silly, wrapped his arms mischievously around him. Not only did he refuse to let Moji close the booklet, he snatched it from him and held it open, forcing Moji to look at those wrinkled pages. Moji didn't want to get into a real fight with Gumong, so the two tumbled around on the bed for a long time, one drunkenly snickering while the other quietly berating him. In the midst of the chaos, the book landed wide open on Moji's face with an audible slap. All his hair stood on end at the obscene images pressed right into his face. Moji sprang up from the bed as if he'd been showered in sewage and pushed Gumong aside, his usually elegant and reserved face bright red. He didn't want to look at Gumong, and he wanted to touch that booklet even less. Chest heaving, Moji turned away. He swallowed and fixed his collar. Don't joke like that with me. This was a warning. Unfortunately, Gumong was already too far gone to heed it. His mind was so addled, he thought his little Shidi was only pouting in embarrassment. It was his own fault for not reading the man right. Underneath it all, Moji was a savage and unbridled carnivore, but his deceptively cool, proper facade had tricked Gumong into thinking he was an ethereal, red-crowned crane who would remain untouchably aloof no matter how he was provoked. In hindsight, the mess Moji fucked him into was of his own making. Maybe it is. Under the influence of the wine, the oblivious Gumong found Moji's icy awkwardness indescribably funny, and he couldn't bear to let him off the hook. He retrieved the booklet that Moji had cruelly tossed aside and offered him a tipsy smile. "You're sure you don't want it?" Moji said nothing. "If you don't want it, I'll read it myself." With that, he lay back on Moji's bed and began to flip through it, oohing and ahhing with a wide grin. Moji's ears were blood red. He closed his eyes and tried to endure this endure this indignity in silence, but his traitorous heart seemed to beat as loud as a drum in that quiet tent. After a short moment, he rose and said in muted tones, I'll go clean up. Gumong's smiling face peeped out from behind his book, eyes gleaming with intoxication. You're running away? Moji ignored him. He focused on tidying up and went outside to wash the bowls and chopsticks. Gumong had no idea how long his shidi spent out in the wind trying to calm himself down. He only thought that Moji was awfully cute and funny. How did such a naive alpine flower sprout from the ranks of those noble scions? 20 years old, and still blushing red to the tips of his ears after merely touching a book of erotica. So silly. Gumong thought that this wouldn't do at all. Moji was already all grown up. In a few years he might even be married. Yet at his age, he couldn't handle something as banal as sex. Such excessive shyness was a disease. It needed to be thoroughly cured. Otherwise, what would he do as a newlywed? Maybe he would push the poor bride away and coldly intone, "My apologies, I must abstain from such obscenities." Gumong was really too drunk. His mind wandered without logic or restraint. The more he thought, the more funnier it all became. He grew convinced that he was truly the perfect Shishong, fussing over his shidi like a mother hen. He carelessly flipped through the booklet as he pondered. The images before his eyes were all indistinctly lewd and over the top. As he turned the pages, he became quite engrossed in it. He thought nothing of the spark he'd set off in Moji or whatever profound reflections on life the youth was having in the cold wind outside. He was blissfully relaxed, his habitually tense muscles loosened by the pear-blossom white wine. He was enjoying this coming-of-age present that Moji had so disliked. The more he read, the more he suspected that rascal Moji had no taste. If Lu Jianxing, I can never say his name first try, if Lu Jianxing were here, he would already be tucked right next to him, appreciating this excellent work. The two of them would chatter away about which position was the best and which girl was the prettiest, leers on both of their faces. At least, that's what normal men did. Was there something wrong with Moji? He's gay. Gumong's imagination ran wild. His thoughts trailed off as the drawings lit a blaze in his heart. Each of those meticulously detailed paintings was more arousing than the last. As he perused them, he felt his mouth go dry. His inebriated body was too easily set alight by the flame of desire, to the point that even his blood burned hot. In truth, he hadn't done anything sexual in a long time. When he and his brothers went out to brothels, he might get handsy with the ladies and enjoy their giggling conversations, but he never managed to take that final step. Even Gumong himself couldn't quite explain why. Perhaps it was because he thought sex without love wouldn't be as satisfying. Perhaps it was because he had grown up a lost orphan and had always, from the bottom of his heart, longed for steady companionship that would last a lifetime. Or perhaps none of those excuses were true. Perhaps they were all a front. He just thought that the girls he'd held all felt too delicate, like fragile porcelain. He certainly admired their beauty, but he'd never felt much desire. He's into masculinity. Oh. For instance, in the painting before him, the women were fair and alluring, but he preferred to look at the men having sex with them, at those strapping, powerful, unshakable physiques. No way! At this thought, Gumong felt that there was probably something wrong with him. He kept flipping through the book. Although he'd skimmed it previously, he hadn't looked closely at every picture. Now one page in particular stopped him in his tracks. Blood roared through Gumong's ears, making his muddled head ring. Yet he hadn't even registered why his blood had surged like that. It was an instinctive reaction to what was on the page. Only after the shock had passed did he realize that this painting wasn't quite like the others. The artist had probably wanted to paint something provocative and felt that heterosexual pairings alone weren't novel enough. So they'd gotten creative and produced a very daring scene. Naturally, these erotic pictures all featured women, and the woman in this painting was lying on her back, and her hair in disarray, and her slender neck arched legs spread for the man plundering her fair and trembling body. But that wasn't the point. The part that made Gumong's heart pound and set his body aflame was that there was yet another man behind the first, his arms wrapped around him from the back, and he was... With a single glance at the picture, Gumong's face, normally thick as a city wall, flushed red in an instant. He felt dizzy, like the answer to a question that had puzzled him for a long time had burst out of the water to stir up a maelstrom in his heart. All the blood in his body rushed south. He was instantly so hard it hurt. Gumong was so dazed and drunk that he stared blankly at this picture for many minutes and didn't even notice when Moji returned. Moji, having contemplated the meaning of life at length outside, walked over to the bedside. Only then did Gumong dimly react to it and turn his head in his stupor. He saw a handsome visage. He saw a handsome visage left pale as porcelain by the freezing wind outside. Moji's lashes were very long, his slightly pursed lips thin yet sensual. He stared down at Gumong, eyes deep and dark. They seemed to be filled with some indescribable emotion. Gumong had never noticed a look like this on Moji's eyes before. He couldn't identify it. All he knew was that it made his heart blaze with yearning. Moji appeared to have figured out what he wanted to say to Gumong while he was outside. However, he'd barely gotten a word out before Gumong yanked him down. He didn't hear at all what Moji had said, nor could he have understood if he had. He just had a vague conviction that good things should be enjoyed with his good brothers. He rashly redoubled his efforts, drunkenly ignoring Moji's efforts. He persisted in trying to show him the porn booklet. You have something to tell me, I have something to show you. First, look at these with me, and then I'll listen to what you have to say. Fair trade. Moji must have been truly exasperated by his pestering to the point that his temper had been snuffed out. Or perhaps it was because he'd made up his mind that tonight he would confess the feelings that had been building in his heart for a long time. Whatever it was, Moji finally capitulated. He lay down next to Gumong and read the damn book with him. Even noble-born foot soldiers didn't get wide camp beds. It inevitably felt a little cramped with two men squeezed together. Moji lay on his side beside Gumong and looked at the erotic booklet with him. Or, more accurately, was extorted into looking at the erotic booklet with him. Gumong turned his head to peek at Moji from time to time. You've closed your eyes again, he admonished. Open them up. You got her. Good job. Good for you. Moji said nothing. It doesn't count if your eyes are closed. Your girl's teaching you how to hook up with girls. You better pay attention. Silence. Moji had seen people get wildly drunk, but he'd never before seen a wild drunk force his brothers to read porn with him. Gumong had no plans to show him the most exciting picture right away, instead flipping through the pages one by one. Every once in a while he turned his head to check that Moji hadn't looked away. The tent was very quiet. Gumong knew that page was coming ever closer. He didn't know if it was because his penchant for teasing this icy beauty, or for some other reason, but his heart was racing. Moji's breathing also roughened, likely in response to Gumong's own agitated state. With each exhale, his searing breath brushed across Gumong's temple, and his firm chest pressed against his back, as if shoring up for a storm that neither of them could control. So warm, so hot. Hello, loser. I'm potentially reading porn? Maybe. Potentially. They slowly made their way through the book. Gumong knew exactly how many pages were left before that picture of two men entwined. At first he had been in a rush to reach that page and share the enjoyment of it with Moji. But the atmosphere between the two of them gradually grew more strange. There seemed to be an invisible stream of heat passing between them, where their bodies nestled together. All of a sudden, that daring jokester had second thoughts. Why don't we stop here? Weren't you trying to show me something special? They spoke at almost the same time. Gumong turned his face, the tip of his nose almost brushing Moji's cheek. It was like the air in the tent had thickened, becoming too hot to flow and too dense to dissipate. Gumong sensed danger, like he had fallen into a trap of his own making, like he'd burned himself playing with fire. He parted his lips in an attempt to speak, but he couldn't make a sound. Moji narrowed his eyes, watching him from mere inches. Wow. Moji narrowed his eyes, watching him from mere inches away. You were, weren't you? How special could it be? The next page was that page. Gumong swallowed, half wanting to slam the book shut then and there. But Moji, who had previously loathed the little booklet like nothing else, had scented a subtle change in the air. He snatched the book away with his elegant, powerful hand, and his long fingers reached out to turn the page. Gumong closed his eyes with a sense of impending doom. It was silent. Neither of them moved. Neither of them made a sound. After a few moments, Gumong couldn't bear the suspense. He cracked his eyelids to sneak a quick peek. He snapped his eyelids to sneak a quick peek. He saw Moji wearing an inscrutable, complicated expression as he examined the painting of one man fucking another man. His eyes flickered. The aura emanating from Moji was too strange. Even drunk Gumong still shivered at the sight of him. He summoned up a forced smile and made to get up. Shitty, congratulations on coming of age. It's gotten late. Gogo's going to go back now. He hadn't finished the sentence when Moji pinned him back down. As before, Gumong was lying on his side, Moji against his back. However, Moji had intentionally left some distance between them earlier. His chest had been pressed to Gumong's back, but they hadn't been touching anywhere else. Right now, Moji had basically pulled Gumong flush against his body. Gumong immediately felt something very large and hard push against him, and even thrust forward. Do I read this? Do I not? I don't know. Oh my god. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. It's only a little bit. It's only a little bit. I mean, it's not explicit. Okay, this is all for educational purposes, alright? Everyone agreed this is all educational, right? Edumacation. This is for science. Right, yes. I'm also not gonna read out their moans, okay? I'm not gonna do that. Gumong let out a muffled gasp. The alcohol, the new sensation, the terrifying taboo, and his accumulated lust all combined to make him incredibly sensitive. A humid, fiery voice rumbled against his ear, the rough, deep desire audible within making his wine-soft body tremble all over. Somehow he didn't know that voice at all. Moji panted raggedly into his ear. Was this what Shiga wanted me to see so badly? No, Gumong only managed a handful of words before his earlobe was captured by a warm mouth, soon followed by a rough tongue licking around and into his ear. Gumong was instantly sapped of strength, the unfamiliar sensations drawing a moan from his lips. This cry seemed to give the newly adult young man behind him a tremendous dose of courage. Moji drew him into a snug embrace, his strong hands wrapping around Gumong's waist as he pulled him close. He was holding himself back, but he'd been doing so for so long. Given this small outlet, his desire rushed forth messily. He sucked Gumong's earlobe with increasing force and passion. Moji, that's not what I meant. But Moji wouldn't hear a thing he said anymore. He held Gumong from behind with one hand as he ran his other over his entire body. When he felt Gumong's own reaction, his fervency only increased. He grabbed Gumong by the chin and stared into his eyes under the candlelight. He suddenly leaned down and kissed him. Like a parched man, he captured Gumong's lips almost violently, forcibly licking into his mouth. They're kissing! I mean, they're doing more than kissing, but they're kissing! The kiss was frankly too intense. The sound of it was soft and sticky. It entwined with the sounds of Gumong panting and struggling. The noises Gumong made seemed to hit Moji like an aphrodisiac. He took hold of Gumong, who was attempting to turn around, and clutched to him close, caging him tightly in his arms. Moji tilted Gumong's face towards his own, and kissed him passionately, while pushing up against Moji's ass through their clothes. Moji kissed Gumong's lips until they were red and glossy. As they separated, he panted for breath, his eyes indescribably dark. His voice so rough there could have been smoke when he spoke. His voice so rough there could have been smoke when he spoke? Holy shit! That's a line. Shizong said he would accompany me tonight as I changed from a little brat to a grown man. Go ahead, then. Gumong wanted to throttle his loud-mouthed self of a few hours ago. That's not what I fucking meant, he wailed. Too late. Moji pulled himself up, then turned Gumong over and shoved him beneath his own body. His lapels were loose and open, revealing a chest that was as fine as jade but tremendously sturdy. I gave you your chance to leave. It was you who refused. Gumong, for once, couldn't muster a response. Moji tossed the booklet aside, gripped Gumong's chin, and lifted his face. Those delicate and elegant eyes watched him in a daze. Moji, you're being ridiculous. Moji's throat bobbed as he reached out to untie Gumong's sash. He said softly. Ridiculous is what Shishong knows best. His eyes were terrifyingly dark as they raked over the sight of Gumong beneath him, skin flushed and burning with desire. Finally, he bent down and murmured, Teach me, Shishong. That's the end of the chapter. That's the end of the chapter. That's the end of the chapter. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Educational. It's all educational. It's all, I mean, yes, did you enjoy this chapter? I expect an essay in my DMs at noon tomorrow. All right. The question is, what the fuck? Write a 500 word essay on this passage, explaining what the fuck. All right. Good. Thank you. Class is dismissed. Wow. Okay, that's, I mean, that is the end of the stream, and that's the end of the chapter, and that's the end of the stream. And we're not going to read anymore, because that's a good spot to end. I think that's a great spot to end. I mean, it doesn't continue in the next chapter, so yeah. Plus, if it did, I would have to not read it on stream, but yeah. Oh, exactly 10 pages is so satisfying. And that's that. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this time. I love this one. Oh, wow. Oh, all right, but I will be going. I'm gonna go probably make some food or something. Definitely not think about that about how my enunciation is going crazy. Definitely not think about that for a while. I'm gonna go. You guys go do what you do. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being here for book club this week. I'll see you next week. I think the next Twitch/YouTube stream is gonna be it's gonna be Sunday. So that's gonna be on Sunday. So I'll see you then. Yeah, by the way, to YouTube viewers, I do a lot of fun stuff on my Twitch. Just in case you don't know this, I do other streams and gaming stuff on Twitch. Yeah. You're missing out. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna fucking go. Alright. See you later. Have a good rest of your day. Be safe and mask up. Alright. Goodbye.